Hey guys, I'm Liz. Welcome back to SpringCreekAcre. I am taking an entire day today to just plant my garden. Well, not entirely. We still have a couple days that are going to be under 50 degrees, but I have a few tomato plants that I bought from a friend who does a program at a school. And so I'm going to go ahead and get them in the ground because they're used to being outside already. And they're growing great. They're actually already flowering. So I want to get them out in my tomato beds. And I have some melons I need to plant. I need to do some fertilizing on my trees and grapevines, blueberry bushes, things I didn't get to earlier this year, which I am a little bit late on, but it'll work. I'm excited. I love days that I get to spend out in the garden. It is going to get up to like 92 today. So I know that by probably 1 o'clock I'll have to come in. But I'm super excited to spend a few hours out there this morning and get some stuff done. I also have thistle that has come up everywhere in the garden, henbit that's kind of taken over. So I'm going to try to get all of that cleaned up. That's actually my number one priority, is getting the garden cleaned up. There's kind of cardboard that's blown everywhere. I'm running late on getting my wood chips in, and so the cardboard's just kind of doing its own thing out there. So I need to get it kind of laid back out with something on top of it. And then I have a bunch of Bermuda grass that I'm going to try to do something with. That's where I want to plant my melons. So I definitely need to try to work on that a little bit. I also heard from another YouTuber that they planted amaranth and it stopped all the squash bugs. Like, it was a trap crop for them. And so I have some amaranth pulled out that I'm going to plant with my squash and my melons. And I'm going to see if it does work. It's worth a shot because they decimate my crops every year. So we're gonna go out and get started. I'm probably just gonna turn the video on and let y'all just kind of time lapse me, and I'll stop if I want to talk about anything. But especially while I clean it up, y'all are just gonna be watching. I also want to mention that while I would love to barefoot garden like all of these gardeners I see on YouTube, I actually love being barefoot and being outside, but we have a lot of snakes where we live. We're just central West Texas, and we are definitely the land of the snakes. There's a ton. And so I definitely always wear boots. I didn't used to, but last year, I think I've talked about this before, I actually found a rattlesnake just inches from where I was working that was eating some baby bunnies that a mom had made a nest in my pepper bed. I'd never even noticed the nest. And then that snake was in there. And so I'm a little, probably more cautious than I used to be. I found what I think I've identified as a Texas rat snake in the very back part of our yard. There's some holes and kind of gaps and stuff, so it's gotten down in there. So that was pretty cool, but I'm not looking forward to any of the other ones I might find.
mulched it with some old chicken bedding. It's been on there for months and months now, so don't worry about me getting sick from it, contamination or anything like that. But even though I mulched that first bed, it didn't really seem to make a difference at all. So I'm going to get in there and just pull out what I can. I try to really heavily plant it with like melons, flowers, things like that, so that it kind of shades the grass out and it doesn't grow quite as well. But if you have Bermuda, it's very resilient. It totally just like blows my mind that people are still using it in their yards because it's completely invasive. How I got it was from a load of wood chips that apparently had, and I noticed, but I didn't really know much about Bermuda at the time. I did see the blocks of wood, and I just kind of left them thinking they would compost, and just those tiny little pieces turned into a garden full of Bermuda. So I guess it's great for grass, but it's definitely not great for the gardener. If I stay on top of it better than I did last year, it'll maybe not get out of hand, but you can kind of see, let me see if you can see that, like just how thick it comes in. And I've been trying to subdue it with cardboard, and it works a little bit, but it gets out of hand really, really quick. So I'm just gonna keep going these weeds, and then I'll show you all what we look like when we're done, and hopefully we can get some tomatoes in the ground. We technically still have like, I think in the 10-day forecast, 1 or 2 nights that are in the high 40s, so I'm not super worried about it. Like I said, the ones that I'm going to plant for sure today have already been outside. I have some more that are getting pretty big for their pots, and so I might have to get them in the ground too. But yesterday I put them out to harden off. I've been putting them out for like 2 weeks, and the wind was just brutal and kind of beat them up a little, so I may give them a few more days to recover, but I'm not sure yet. I do not want this stuff to spread. It grows underground by rhizomes. It grows, I believe, by seed. And then it also sends off runners, which the runners are the worst because they're really compact and next to impossible to get out. That's what I'm dealing with a lot of right here. See? I don't know if you can see that, but that's a whole string of Bermuda. So I try to not let any piece stay. Other things like my hen bit, even though it kind of takes over, it does it early in the spring, and so it's not really in my way, and so I don't mind it coming back. So I'll just kind of leave it, in piles to compost. But I definitely don't want this Bermuda. Let me see if you can just see how much comes off of one little piece. It's crazy. When I was a little girl, I always wanted a perfect yard with perfect flowers. And now I see it so vastly different that it blows my mind. I try to keep things as natural as possible. I may not have the prettiest garden, I might not have perfect beds with perfect mulch, with perfect plants, but it's natural and it grows. And I put the leaves on it and the old grass clippings, and I actually even this last winter I buried a bunch of animal parts, like from us getting deer and pigs and fish and stuff like that. I have been burying those, and my soil where I've been doing that has just been so wet and healthy. We'll do that again this year. We'll see how it does when it comes to planting. But I'm really excited. Gosh, y'all, this is just crazy. But at least I get to be outside doing it. At least it's not growing in the house. I'll be stuck inside all the time. I was gonna time lapse this entire thing, but I think my battery will probably go low. This camera doesn't have the longest battery life. So I'm gonna stop it here. Y'all kind of saw what it looked like and what I've been doing. And then when I go to the other side, I'll show y'all the beginning of it, what it looks like. And then I'll show y'all the finished product of it all. And then we'll hopefully have some battery left so we can play it together. Okay, so I think I just about got that side down. The thing with Bermuda is that you'll pull it and you're like, oh, I got it all done. And then you'll look and there's more green and it's like it's just growing as you're pulling. So I did the best I could. If I hyperfixate on it all day, I'll never get this other side done. And so this side doesn't have as much Bermuda. Sorry, something in my eye. This side doesn't have near as much Bermuda. It's trying to spread over there. But it hasn't really taken over, but it does have a ton of those thistles. I actually left those because I saw the yellow flowers and just assumed they were dandelion. And when I went to look up using dandelion as an edible fruit, I noticed that none of them had the really spiky leaves, and I was like, maybe that's not what this is. And so I looked it up and it said it's actually a type of thistle. It is still edible. I mean, you have to remove all the spines and it's very pokey, so it's not something I'm going to mess with. I did leave some dandelions that I want to make some dandelion tea, and I want to try to save some of the root. I haven't necessarily been the best with like herbalism or using like foraging type things, and I'm trying to get better about not just seeing things as weeds. Not that I saw it as weeds, because I would never really pull them out. I understood the benefit of them, but I would like to see them being beneficial to what we're eating as well. And so I left them. You can see it kind of still looks really messy, but like I said, my garden is never going to be perfectly clean. I'm just not one of those people. I really like the natural look. I like kind of the messy look. I like for it to look like maybe like a forest floor or something. And so, yeah, it's never going to be perfectly clean. But it doesn't have to have weeds everywhere. I'm going to try to weed eat my walkways and stuff. My mom's office always saves boxes for me. And so I'm going to try to get some more boxes. It's just hard because I don't have my wood chips. Colin and I were actually talking about just running a dump trailer on a weekend and going and getting as many loads as we can from the brush center. Sorry, I couldn't think of the name. The brush center here in town. And so I am hoping that we're going to be able to do that in just the next couple weeks. I just need to save up to rent that dump trailer. It's like $150, I think. Which I know to some people is not a ton. It's definitely something I'm going to save up for. So hopefully in the next couple weeks we can get that done. The mulch there is only $4 per truckload. They might even say a yard, but they usually just fill up the bed of the truck. So I'm not sure how much it'll be to fill up the big dump trailer, but it can't be too expensive. It's usually like $4 for the less broken down stuff and $6 for the stuff that's been aged and kind of broken down. And I like to do the aged and then top it with the less aged, to keep it just from, because if it breaks down too fast, the weeds just come through it. So if I can have that layer of a little more broken down for the nutrients and things like that. Okay, sorry, my memory card is full, and I'm really hoping that I uploaded the video that I just deleted. But yeah, you can kind of see it's pretty messy out here, but not too bad. Whenever I started this side, so on the side that I was just working on, I did like the lasagna method where I piled cardboard, wood chips, leaves, like anything I could find. And then on this side, we just piled on 2 truckloads of wood chips, and I left it for the year. And so last year there was just no weeds, like hardly any on this side. And so I know it works, and my plants grow beautifully. So I am going to definitely get those wood chips down as soon as I can. That is pretty high on the priority list for me right now. But I'm gonna let y'all kind of time lapse for just a minute while I work, and then I'll shut it off and we'll get to planting hopefully soon. It's starting to heat up. The sun's directly above us, very bright. But I think all the weeds out. I have left some things that are like wildflowers just because they're beautiful and they're not in my way. So I'm fine with where I'm at. Obviously the walkways still need some weeding. It's a lot of grass and it's kind of hard to pull. And so like I said, I'm just hoping I can get some cardboard and cover it and get these wood chips soon. And then around the backs, I'm not sure if you can see that right now, but around the backs, I'm just going to come weed eat this weekend, hopefully. Fingers crossed. I'm trying to spend the weekend at home to get some things taken care of. So hopefully we can get all of that weed eated. But I'm happy with where I'm at today. I went ahead and brought my tomatoes. Let me unhook y'all and I'll show you. Okay, so I got out my tomatoes. You can see I kind of have them laying out here. Like I said, these are not ones I started. A friend of mine that's in the Master Naturalist program with me teaches a class, and they were selling them. So I bought a few from him, and the size was great. He only charged me $3. I was very impressed. I bought 2 Mexican midgets and 2 Romas, but I think I wound up with 3 Romas and 3 Mexican midgets, just the way they're packaged. And he also threw in a free pepper, which is serrano pepper. Yeah, that's what it is. And so I'm going to do it in the bed just next door. I have some tomato hooks I'm going to order off Amazon. They're like the hooks, and they're wrapped with the string. They come down so that I can hook these. And then in the other beds where I plant my other tomatoes, because I have a bunch, I'm going to do either like rebar or T-posts, whatever I can find cheaper, wood stakes, something just to hold them up. But I'm really excited to get some tomatoes in the ground. Those hooks should be here pretty quickly. I'm going to order them probably tonight. And then we'll go from there. I love summer gardening. I'm so excited about this. I am going to go change clothes and grab me a cup of water because it's very hot. My coffee is over. And then I'll be back. I really hope that y'all can see me. It's really bright out here and I can't see my screen. But whenever I created my trellis, I did the little things across the top every like 12 inches. And I think that it might have been a little close. I'm really not sure. We don't have very much humidity here, so I don't deal with a lot of disease or anything like that. But something just moved in my garden underneath some cardboard, and my animals aren't out here, so hopefully there's no snakes. We do have lots of lizards, and I appreciate them all for what they do. So, but I would rather it not be like a rattlesnake, which is what I found last year. Okay, like I was saying, and so I'm gonna plant these like with a thing in between each one. I might end up changing my mind tomorrow and coming back and filling them in. Like I've said, I have so many tomatoes. I'm gonna have to find places to put them. See what I'm talking about, the Bermuda, y'all? And I just started throwing it back in there. That was not very smart. But I'm gonna space them out, and then whenever I come out here with the rest of my tomatoes, I'm gonna find spots and try to leave these. But if I have to, I'll plant in between each one. I'm gonna kind of show y'all what that looks like. Let me bring you down. So I actually broke this stem. I don't know if you can kind of see that. Whenever I was trying to get it out of my car, and I've had it kind of leaned so that it's still staying connected. But I'm going to pull all of these lower branches off, which I should have brought my pruners, but if y'all hear my dog crying, he's just mad. He wants to go in the house, but he just got on the counter and ate a big ham bone that I meant for my kids to take out last night, and he's mad about it. He doesn't want to be out here, but it made him sick, obviously. It was my fault for leaving it out. I didn't think about it, but okay, so I just took all those branches off there, so you see I took those couple. I could probably even go a little higher, honestly, but I think that'll be fine. I'm just going to make sure that I get that break underneath the soil so that it can continue to grow. I talked about in my video with planting tomatoes that the hairs along the stem actually will create roots. Y'all are never gonna believe what just happened. I was trying to move my camera down. So I had this in a little pot right next to me, and it was just sitting there, and I went to move my tripod and I knocked the pot over and broke the stem I was talking about maybe taking off, and it officially broke all the way at that break. So I'm trying to decide. I'm obviously gonna take this flower off because I don't want it to try to set fruit right now. I'm thinking about just planting it really deep because I'm going to be keeping these really watered for the next few days, and it should put out roots fairly quickly. But I also could take it and root it in water. So I'm trying to decide which of those would be the better option. I don't know. Let me think. I think I'm just going to stick it in the soil. I think so. But I know that that's probably not going to work because we all know, I've talked about it, I'm not the most attentive when it comes to watering everything. There's more examples of Bermuda. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and plant it. Oh well. At the end of the day, I got an extra tomato plant from them anyway. So, okay. So my outside of my trellis falls about right here. That was the last point. There's a lot of Bermuda in here. Well, I don't know. I was feeling very inspired when I came out here. Okay, sorry, my phone's ringing.
Not only did I break my
just how this Bermuda just
right after that, I had to answer another phone call, and I knocked my tripod
hopefully
over. It all looked fine. My
I don't know, but it really stresses me out a little bit.
Fell out.
I'm hoping that
You can't hear me anymore.
my tomatoes don't have to really fight for their right
Still don't
here.
have to listen to the wind anymore.
We'll see how it goes this year, and if we need to make some adjustments, we might have to silage target this winter. I've also thought about putting chickens in here or pig all winter and letting them kind of root it up, which obviously that would mean not having a winter garden.
That may not have been the best decision.
So I just haven't decided. I think that we might have to, even if we at least do it on this half for the winter,
next to it,
and then maybe
struggling. Which
I don't know.
I'm not
But
sure what's causing
the
that.
Bermuda is really hard to
I
deal
also
with. I
decided
feel
was
for
gonna go ahead
anybody
and put
having
this
to deal with
root ball in
it.
the ground. Something may come up
Getting
from it.
another
I
phone
doubt
call.
it. I doubt that it does anything. But at least it'll feed the worms and the soil. And so I just planted it just as kind of an experiment. I have the room until after this week when these little cold nights are hopefully done. So I'm just kind of tucking that in really nicely. I did an experiment on my tomato bed this winter where I, on one half of it, I did, I was showing y'all a little bit of the Bermuda there, just kind of how crazy it takes off on one little stem. But on half of the tomato bed, I buried a bunch of like guts and bones and all kinds of stuff. And then on the other side, I just left it plain. The side that I planted, or that I buried all of that, the soil was so lush and just my shovel went straight through it. The moisture level was really high. And then as I moved down, oh, look at that string of Bermuda. Isn't that crazy, guys? As I moved my way down, the side that didn't have any of that buried, the soil's really compact, hard. It didn't have much moisture. Mind you, they've had the same bedding all winter. So it's going to be nice to kind of get to see if planting or burying all of that actually did anything. I think I'm talking right there about just how nice that soil is. So you can kind of see how easy it comes out. And as I move down, you may be able to tell, we'll see when we get there, if you can tell how compact that clay soil is down towards the end, which I have been amending this side of the bed that the tomatoes are in. This side of the garden, I have been using since 2019. I regularly mulch with straw, hay, wood chips, leaves, grass, whatever I have on hand. And so I know that that's not making the difference between the two. So it will be nice to have a Mexican midget on both sides and a Roma on both sides to kind of see. The video that I'm making this week, you'll get to see where one of my tomato plants is struggling that I planted on the side with the blood and guts. And so I'm not sure if it's something with that causing an issue or if it's just a struggling tomato plant. But we're going to leave it and see. And this year we'll get to kind of see how the experiment plays out. I have a ton of tomato plants, so even if a whole side of the bed fails, it should still be alright, hopefully. But I dig my holes really deep on my tomatoes. You can kind of see I like to dig down really as deep as I can go. I take my tomatoes, I keep like two levels of like the canopy, so 2 layers of leaves, and then everything else I strip down, and I plant it as deep as I can up to that second set of leaves. Every now and then I'll leave a little bit more. I may have done that here. But I do like to really take off a lot of the foliage because tomatoes have little hairs or fibers growing up the stem, and as the plant, when you plant it deep, those little hairs become roots, able to get So the deeper that you plant them, the more roots you're able to get, and you'll get a better root system going underneath the soil. So I like to plant as deep as possible. All of my beds are, I irrigate using Harbor Freight's soaker hoses. I really like them, and I have one going along each side of my tomatoes, so each side of the bed will have its own hose, and I've been using those for about 2 years, and I usually have to replace one a year or so, but that's not too bad considering the Texas sun is just so crazy. Still pulling out Bermuda. You'll see as the year progresses what a nuisance it becomes. It's already a nuisance, but it seems to get so much worse. I'm gonna get more cardboard. I swear, it's my main goal is more cardboard and wood chips because it makes such a big difference. Trying to scooch all along with me. I'm trying to remember everything that I would have said. I talked forever before I realized. The video was done whenever I noticed that my battery was laying on the ground, and I was just like, oh no. I'm trying to decide if I need to fertilize these tomatoes or not, because the guts and stuff, I'm scared that I'm going to over fertilize. So if anybody has ever done anything like that, I'd love your feedback on it. I'm not sure. This is the first time I've ever done anything like that. But we harvest a lot of meat, free range meat like fish, venison, sometimes wild hogs. We have our meat chickens, things like that. So there's always an endless supply of guts and blood and bones. So I'm really hoping that I get some good results from this, because it's a great way to keep them on our farm or our homestead and be able to use them. So I'm still just going, digging as deep as I can. You can just see how good that soil is. Even after all these years of mulching, I'm always amazed just to see the difference. Yeah, there I am, kind of picking off all those lower stems. These plants were so tall, I was amazed that they were only selling them for $3, and it got to help out a school project. Here I do remember I was talking about how I accidentally put a little too much straw in that tomato plant, and I need to go and look at the one to see if this is it. I don't think so, that's struggling. But you don't want to get a lot of the mulch around your root system, because it allows for air to hit your roots, and you want the soil to be on the roots to keep them moist and to keep the vitamins and minerals and everything able to actually interact with those roots. So I definitely wouldn't recommend that. And then people say not to push your mulch all the way up to your tomato stem. I always have, and I've never had an issue, but definitely something you may watch out for. Whenever I was planting my tomatoes, last year, whenever I built the trellis, I did the I guess rungs, you'd call them, around on the top, about 12 inches apart, which they're not perfectly even, not even a little bit. And I planted one on each one, and I think that it might have crowded them a little bit too much. So this year I'm skipping a rung, and I literally, to measure where I'm going to put the plant, I just kind of look up, and whenever my hand is directly below it, I just go down. You might see me do that here in a minute. And I just plant it right there. And then in between those, I'm going to do some like marigolds. I planted some marigolds, some nasturtiums, some zinnias. There's some sunflowers coming up. So it should be a nice mix of flowers and tomatoes, which hopefully will also help with the pest pressure. I'm going to have to build some kind of trellis in the next bed to be able to handle the amount of tomatoes that I need to grow. I think I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'll show you all the plan for that maybe on my next video. But I definitely have to do something because I'm going to have way too many tomatoes to fit this trellis. My beds are roughly 3 foot wide and 14 foot long, so I can fit about 28 tomatoes in each bed. But I have roughly like 80 to 90 planted, which some of those are determinants, and I'll just kind of mix and match with my peppers. I'll kind of put them, wherever they'll fit. It's not as big of a deal. But the indeterminates get so huge that I definitely need some kind of system for that. So I think I'm going to try to work on that here in the next coming up weeks. I say weeks. I don't have very much more time before I start working on it. I also need to start getting a plan together for my shade cloth, because last year it just got so hot so fast that we hardly got any tomatoes. So I want to do something. I want to do something that will help give my garden some shade this summer. We're already getting up to like 95 some days in the 10-day forecast. So I definitely need to get some kind of shade barrier. I have some sun sails, and I've looked at some shade cloth online. The problem is I'm just not sure how to get it over the garden. We have some metal posts that go in each corner of our garden, and one is really tall. And if I had thought about it, I would have left them all that tall, because then I could just use that for the shade cloth. But sadly, 3 of them are not much taller than the garden gates themselves. So we're trying to work out a plan I have to use a lot of Colin's help on things like that because I just don't have like a building brain. So I've been kind of trying to use his knowledge and expertise and ideas to figure something out, but he's been so busy we haven't had very much time to really talk about it or for it to be a priority in our lives. But these tomatoes are just so beautiful. But I'm definitely going to get that figured out soon so that hopefully we can keep our crops going. Our okra, squash, trying to think what else did okay. I guess that's really it. We got okra and squash, but then the squash bugs always take over about the end of June. We kind of wreak havoc on everything there. So I'm just going to try to do my best, and hopefully we can get something this year. I'm not sure exactly what I was explaining here. I hate that. I wish that I remembered everything because I'm sure there were some points I was trying to make, but I'll definitely pay attention next time. Hopefully my camera doesn't fall that hard again. I broke my mic where it connects and everything, so I'm gonna have to order a new one. I have a really good mic I bought, but it doesn't work with this camera, which this is all trial and error. I'm trying to figure out how all of this works so that I can make the best quality videos for y'all without costing myself an arm and a leg before I actually even have any real viewers, hardly. Okay, I have 2 tomatoes left. I'm just really excited. A lot of my plants that I have going inside are struggling. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Some look really good and some look really bad. And so I'm hoping that they kind of start taking off. I have about a week before I'm going to try to get those in the ground. Same with my peppers. I need to start hardening them off because it'll be time soon. And I'm so excited to have a summer garden. You get so much each day, and it seems like something's always changing. Where with your winter garden, it grows slower though, and nothing gets super big. But your summer garden's just huge, and everything's taken off, and there's weeds everywhere and flowers everywhere, and it's just such a messy, beautiful time. Your house is overloaded with food. So I go from having seedlings on my dining room table to tons of food, which it's hard because I don't have anywhere to sit down and eat, but we make it work. We eat around them usually. I'm just so excited about these plants. The Mexican Midget won a taste testing award, I think. It said in like 2018 or 2019. So I'm really excited to see the flavor of that. Typically everybody says buy your heirlooms for the best flavor, buy your heirlooms for the best flavor. So it's nice to find a hybrid that's won a flavor award. The Romas, everybody has Roma tomatoes. They're great for making pasta sauce and stuff like that, but not necessarily the tastiest as far as your flavor. But they get the job done. They're still homegrown. They're still much better than store-bought anything. So I'm going to try to pry those apart. When you're taking tomato plants apart, you can kind of just wiggle them out. Usually one of them has way less roots than the other, but tomatoes recover pretty fairly quickly. They aren't quite as picky as a lot of your other plants. They just like a lot of water. And that seems to be my issue every year, is remembering to give them enough water. I did buy a timer this year. I just need to get a hose that I can keep on that timer. Right now our hose kind of gets drug everywhere, so I need to get one just for my timer and my garden. And I also need to get one that reaches all the way out to the food forest, because that's also hard to remember to water. But I need, I think, one more soaker hose for the food forest. I'm just using some, I think it's 1/4-inch soaker hoses, just probably from Lowe's or something, that my mom actually gave me the majority of when she had a garden a few years ago. And they're still holding on strong. They're just a lot more expensive than the Harbor Freight ones, and the Harbor Freight ones have seemed to do really well for me, and $10 each, and then you can usually get a coupon to make them even cheaper. So I've been happy with those. But really, any kind of soaker hoses. I want to do like irrigation, like actual irrigation, but every time I try to learn about it, it just is so over my head and hard for me to understand. I don't understand how far you can stretch it, like how, I don't know, the logistics of it, I guess, all just stresses me out really bad. And so I've been putting it off, but I've made it a goal that I'm going to try to do it this winter and see how it does. I said that I was going to do it this last winter, but I just never made it there. I'm actually really happy with how hard I'm having to dig, but you can kind of see the difference in how hard I'm having to dig versus the other side where all of that was buried. And I don't know if that's just because I dug up that soil to bury those those blood and guts, so it kind of is loose, or if it's because of the breakdown of all of that. Whenever I dug into it, it didn't seem like I didn't see anything nasty. It seemed like it had all broken down. Obviously the bones were still there, but they were just little pieces. I didn't put any huge bones in there, just some fragments and stuff like that. But I'm really hoping that works out for us, because that would be a really great way to nourish my beds over the winter and get rid of waste that normally we have to take somewhere, out of the land to dump. And we can't just put it on our land because it's so small. We don't want to call up the coyotes. I say that I buried it in my garden and didn't call up any coyotes, so maybe that's a silly thought that we have. But usually we take it out to land that we have access to, and we bury them out there. And I'm sure the coyotes and pigs love it, and vultures and all of that. So it kind of helps the ecosystem there. It keeps it off our property. But that may not be something I really need to be so worried about, because it didn't seem to call up anything. My dogs definitely could smell it at first, but they don't usually have access to the garden, so it's not a huge deal. I do kind of regret I planted these in the middle of the day. I was out there working and I didn't realize it was already so late. I did not go in at 1 o'clock. I was definitely out there for a long time. I think I was out there until like 2:30. Then I had to go get my kiddos. So I didn't even get time to finish putting out all that cardboard or anything like that. But there's more time. Once I get those wood chips, that'll be a much easier project. But it's hot. Definitely hot. I can tell my face is getting really red in this video. But I'm just excited that y'all were here to hang out with me. We got the garden cleaned up, even though it probably still looks really messy on camera. It's not that bad in real life. Just some grass growing, but nothing we can't handle with just a little bit of weed eating and covering. So I'm excited that you all were here. I'm excited to make another video, and I'm super excited that it's finally time to start planting. And there's actually something to clean up and do. So I just thank you for spending your time with me, spending your day with me, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.